Chapter 1 Alpha Hook Introduction to the Core Paradox. Imagine this. You're sitting alone in the dim glow of your bedroom lamp, the clock ticking past midnight. The world outside is silent, but inside your mind, a storm rages. You've just scrolled through another feed of perfect lives, smiling faces, effortless successes, unshakable confidence. And there you are, feeling that familiar ache, a hollow pull in your chest. Not jealousy, exactly, something deeper, a whisper that says, "This isn't you, not the real you." You push it down like always. Tell yourself it's fine, you're fine, successful, even. But late at night, when the masks slip, you wonder, why does it feel like I'm living half a life? You know this feeling intimately. It's the quiet unraveling that happens when no one's watching. The way your laughter in crowds feels rehearsed, your achievements ring hollow despite the applause. You've built walls impenetrable, logical, socially approved. You're the reliable one, the thinker, the one who never cracks. But beneath it all, there's a shadow stirring, a part of you that's wild, raw, unpolished, angry maybe, needy, terrified. You've buried it so deep, you almost forget it's there until moments like this, when it claws its way up, demanding to be seen. This is the core paradox of your existence. You crave wholeness, yet you exile the very parts of yourself that make you whole. Welcome to the journey of shadow work, the deliberate descent into the unconscious, where the hidden self waits, not as an enemy, but as the key to your liberation. I'm not here to sell you quick fixes or motivational platitudes. This is an invitation to face the unseen architecture of your psyche, because what you've been calling normal is actually a sophisticated survival strategy, one that's kept you safe, but at the cost of your vitality. Let's lean into that paradox right now. Picture your mind as an ancient fortress, towering walls of reason, moats of control, drawbridges raised against chaos. You've engineered this perfectly. From childhood, you've learned to anticipate threats, judgment from parents, rejection from peers, the terror of vulnerability. So you adapted. You became the observer, the analyzer, the one who intellectualizes pain away. I'm just overthinking, you say. It's not a big deal, but here's the twist. That fortress isn't protecting you anymore. It's imprisoning you. The shadow, the unconscious repository of all you've repressed, grows stronger in the darkness. Carl Jung called it the shadow archetype. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. You feel it in the body first, that tightness in your throat when emotions surge, the restlessness in your limbs when solitude turns too quiet, the irrational rage at minor slights. These aren't flaws, they're signals. Your unconscious is knocking, pleading for integration. Ignore it, and the paradox deepens. You chase external validation, promotions, likes, relationships, while an internal void widens. You become a ghost in your own life, performing wholeness without embodying it. Think back to the last time you truly felt alive, not the curated joy of vacations or wins, but raw, unfiltered presence. Maybe it was a childhood memory, screaming with laughter in the rain, unburdened by or a fleeting adult moment, tears streaming during a song, fury unleashed in solitude. Those glimpses are your shadow breaking through. They're terrifying because they threaten the fortress, but they're also your truth. The paradox is this: safety demands suppression, Freedom demands embrace. You've tried everything else: therapy sound bites, self help books, journaling that skims the surface. They help, but they don't touch the depths. Shadow work does. It's not about excavating trauma for its own sake. It's a psychological odyssey into the unconscious, the vast, submerged 95% of your psyche that shapes your reality without your consent. Jung described it as the personal unconscious, filled with repressed instincts, incompatible desires, and unlived potential. Freud saw it as the id, a cauldron of primal urges. Modern neuroscience confirms it. Your limbic system, that ancient emotional core, operates below awareness, hijacking decisions with biases you can't see. Right now, as you listen, your shadow is active. It's in the defensiveness rising. I'm not repressed. I'm just cautious. It's in the curiosity pulling you deeper. What if there's more? This paradox isn't abstract. It manifests daily. In relationships, you intellectualize intimacy, away, fearing the mess of true connection. In your career, you grind for approval, sidestepping the passion that scares you. Your self worth, tethered to productivity, crumbling in stillness. This is the hidden exile. You've sacrificed authenticity for the illusion of control, and now your soul echoes with unlived potential. But here's the hook that will keep you here. This isn't punishment, it's an ancient call to wholeness. Every great psychological tradition, from Jungian analysis to Eastern non duality, points to the same truth. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your ally in disguise. Integrate it, and you don't just survive, you thrive with a depth most people never touch. Repress it, and the paradox festers. Outward success, inward fragmentation. Let's make this intimate. You, right now, feel that subtle resistance? That's the ego's sentry, guarding the gates. Acknowledge it. Don't fight. Shadow work begins with permission. Permission to feel the ache, to question the fortress, to whisper back to the shadow, I see you. Because the journey ahead isn't linear. It's a spiral descent into the unconscious, layer by layer. We'll map the archetype, rewire your nervous system, unearth the emotional costs, and arm you with practices that stick. You've spent years building this half life. Isn't it time to claim the full one? The paradox promises suffering, the integration promises power. Stay with me. Your unconscious is ready. Are you? Breathe that in. Notice how your body responds, tightening, softening, stirring. That's the first crack in the fortress. Shadow work isn't theory, it's somatic. It's the felt shift from exile to embrace. As we move forward, we'll dissect this paradox piece by piece. You'll recognize yourself in ways that sting and liberate. You'll learn why your nervous system clings to these patterns like a life raft in a storm. And you'll discover the path out, not through force, but through fierce, compassionate surrender. Chapter 2: Archetype Analysis, Definition and Symbolic Description. Your psychology is an ancient defense mechanism of the nervous system. Not a personal failing, not a modern glitch, but a primordial adaptation forged in the fires of survival. Before we descend deeper into the unconscious, we must name the beast. Meet the shadow, the archetype that Carl Jung identified as the cornerstone of the psyche's hidden architecture. It's not some vague darkness or moral fail. The shadow is the repository of everything you've disowned, the rage you deem unacceptable, the desires society shamed, the vulnerabilities that threaten your carefully curated self-image. Symbolically, it's the figure in the mist at the edge of your vision, the wild twin you pretend doesn't exist. Picture it vividly. In the mythic landscapes of the collective unconscious, the shadow appears as the doppelganger, the trickster, the beast in the labyrinth. Think of the Minotaur, raging in Crete's depths, born from forbidden unions and half-human hunger, or the Norse Loki, shape-shifting chaos incarnate, both destroyer and innovator. These aren't random tales. They're archetypal maps of your inner world. Your personal shadow mirrors this, a fragmented self, exiled for survival. As a child, perhaps you were the sensitive one in a household of stoics. Emotions were weakness, so you learned to split, to shove the crying, needy, furious parts into the unconscious cellar. What emerged? The rational adult, armored and efficient, but the shadow grew denser, blacker as Jung warned. The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. This archetype isn't static, it's dynamic, compensatory. When you over identify with your persona, the social mask of competence and control, the shadow swells with the opposites. You're nice, so it hoards your aggression. You're independent, so it nurses abandonment wounds. Intellectually dominant, it simmers with unspoken intuition. This is the symbolic genius of the shadow. It balances what consciousness neglect ignore it, and it erupts projections onto others, where your partner's laziness is your own repressed rest need, or a colleague's arrogance masks your unlived ambition. Jung called this projection the shadow's favorite trick, a psychic outsourcing that keeps the unconscious at bay. Let's deepen this symbolism. Envision your psyche as a vast Gothic cathedral. The nave, your conscious ego, gleams with stained glass ideals, virtue, achievement, restraint. But below lies the crypt, damp and echoing, where the shadow resides. Stone effigies of repressed instincts line the walls, the howling wolf of primal fury, the veiled siren of forbidden sensuality, the chained titan of untapped power. Candles flicker dimly, casting long shadows that dance like accusation. This isn't hell, it's the underworld, the realm of Persephone and Inanna, where descent births renewal. Your shadow work is the torch-bearing journey into this crypt, not to slay the beasts, but to converse, to integrate their wisdom. Intellectually, this establishes credibility through Jung's typology. The shadow forms early, around age 3 to 6, during the Oedipal phase where the child internalizes parental injunctions: be good, don't be selfish, hide your anger. Freud's superego enforces this split, but Jung expanded it archetypally. Modern attachment theory echoes. Insecurely attached children, avoidant or anxious, dissociate unlovable traits to secure bonds. Neuroscience backs it. fMRI studies show the default mode network DMN suppresses limbic activity during repression, creating an energetic bottleneck. Your shadow isn't pathology, it's evolutionary thrift. The nervous system that ancient sentinel prioritizes safety over authenticity. Repress the dangerous self, conserve energy for threats. Yet symbolically, the shadow demands reckoning. In dreams, it arrives unbidden. The pursuer in the forest, the monstrous reflection, the seductive stranger. Waking life offers synchronicities, books that fall open to forbidden pages, chance encounters with your opposite. These are calls to embodiment. Refuse, and the archetype pathologizes. Complexes form, autonomous psychic fragments puppeteering your life. Jung termed this possession, where the shadow hijacks sudden outbursts, addictions, compulsions. But heed it, and transmutation occurs. Alchemy's Negredo, the blackening phase, mirrors this. Dissolve the ego's pride, confront the prima materia of the repressed, and gold emerges individuation. Consider the relational symbolism in partnerships, your shadow projects as the enemy lover. You attract partners embodying your disowned traits. The explosive one highlights your numbness, the dependent one, your autonomy fears. This isn't curse, it's curriculum. The fairy tale Bluebeard reveals the shadow's peril, entering the forbidden room of repressed horrors. Yet Snow White integrates via the dwarves, humble aspects leading to the prince conscious unconscious union. Your life script follows suit. The shadow's exile creates relational voids, but its integration fosters depth. Philosophically, the shadow embodies Nietzsche's Apollonian Dionysian tension. Apollo, order, reason, light. Your persona. Dionysus, ecstasy, instinct. Shadow, the repressed revelry. Civilization favors Apollo, but wholeness requires Dionysian blood rites. Eastern traditions align. In Tibetan Buddhism, the Dakini wrathful feminine shadow shatters illusion. Taoism's yin, the dark receptive force, completes Yang's brightness. Your unconscious journey honors this universality. Now witness your own shadow symbols, the recurring dream figure, the bad habit you justify, the trait you despise in others. These are totems. Name them without judgment. My shadow anger coiled serpent. My shadow longing orphaned child. This act of symbolic naming thins the veil, making integration possible. But why does this ancient mechanism persist? Your nervous system, wired for 10,000 BCE threats, mistakes vulnerability for saber-tooths. The polyvagal theory of Stephen Porges illuminates. Dorsal vagal shutdown, freeze dissatiation, births the shadow exile. Ventral vagal safety allows emergence. Shadow work rewires this ventral presence meeting dorsal shadows. We've defined the archetype, a symbolic underworld guardian, defense turned dungeon. Its density measures your repression's success and cost. Ahead, we'll trace its nervous system roots, but first, feel the resonance. Your body knows that subtle unease, the shadow nodding yes. This is no academic exercise. The shadow's call is somatic, archetypal fire in your veins. As we proceed, these symbols will personalize your crypt, your beasts, your chapter 3, the psychological foundation, nervous system rewiring. Your psychology is an ancient battlefield. Eons of evolution have etched survival scripts into your neural architecture, turning the shadow's exile into an automatic reflex. This isn't mere metaphor, it's the hardwiring of your autonomic nervous system, a vigilant guardian that mistakes emotional vulnerability for existential threat. To embark on shadow work is to rewire this battlefield, transforming freeze and flee fortifications into bridges of integration. We'll unpack 3 interlocking psychological pillars: polyvagal theory, the triune brain model, and dissociation dynamics. Each reveals how your unconscious shadow took root, and crucially, how to reclaim it. Begin with polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges' revolutionary map of the vagus nerve's hierarchy. Your nervous system operates in 3 states, like concentric shields deployed in threat cascades. At the core, ventral vagal complex, social engagement, the window of tolerance, where co regulation thrives. This is wholeness embodied. Eye contact flows, emotions articulate, shadows dance in safety, but ascend the ladder of danger. Sympathetic fight or flight mobilizes adrenaline, sharpening focus for combat. Fail to discharge? The system plummets to dorsal vagal shutdown, immobilization, dissociation, the shadows cradle. As a child, perhaps overwhelmed by a parent's volatility, your young nervous system detected unsafe. Instead of fight, tantrum, rebellion, you chose dorsal freeze, numb the feelings, hide the self. The shadow was born here, repressed vitality frozen in time. Neuroception, Porges' term for subconscious threat scanning, perpetuates this. Today, a colleague's critique cues the same shutdown. Authenticity retreats. Rewiring starts somatically. Shadow work leverages vagal braking, deliberate ventral activation via breath, prosody touch. Practice 478. Breathing, inhale 4, hold 7, exhale 8. Engages the ventral brake, thawing dorsal freeze. Studies in psychophysiology confirm heart rate variability, HRV, surges, signaling safety. Your shadow, once a shutdown artifact, emerges not as monster, but messenger. Feel it now. Inhale deeply. Notice the chest soften. That's the battlefield yielding. Layer on Paul MacLean's triune brain model, a stratified neurology explaining the shadow's multi-tiered grip. The primal reptilian core, basal ganglia, governs instinct, freeze, flee, feed, fuck. Your shadow hoards these repressed sexuality, survival rages. Over it, the mammalian limbic system, amygdala, hippocampus, orchestrates emotion attachment. Childhood wounds here scar the shadow deepest. Betrayal imprints amygdala, hypervigilance, flooding cortisol at intimacy's whisper, capping it, neocortex, rational executive. Your persona reigns here, intellectualizing limbic floods. I'm fine, just logical, but repression creates dissonance, the triune layers war. Shadow eruptions, limbic hijacks, neocortical control, road rage from a minor slight, tears at a sappy ad. Integration rewires vertically. Bottom up approaches ascend the triune ladder. Somatic experiencing, Peter Levine discharges reptilian freeze via pendulation, titrate sensation, track edges of overwhelm. Limbic reconsolidation follows. Recall a shadow charged memory, shamed anger, pair with ventral safety, rewrite the script. Top down neocortical reframing, Jungian active imagination, dialogue with shadow figures. fMRI evidence from Bessel van der Kolk's trauma research shows this thickens prefrontal amygdala connections, dampening floods. Your battlefield evolves from civil war to council. Third pillar, dissociation dynamics, the shadow's stealth vehicle. Structural dissociation theory, Jan van der Kolk, Onno van der Hart, posits the psyche fragments under trauma into apparently normal parts, ANP, your persona, and emotional parts, EP, shadow fragments. ANP exiles EP to avert annihilation anxiety, the terror that feeling equates annihilation. Daily? ANP scrolls feeds while EP simmers unseen. This splits consciousness, birthing the paradox. You know you're unhappy, yet persist. Healing demands reunification. Internal family systems. EIS Richard Schwartz personifies parts. Befriend the exiled anger child, exiled lust artist. Unblend from A&P criticism. Witness with self energy, calm, curious, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing. EMDR accelerates bilateral stimulation. Tapping sounds mimics REM sleep, processing stuck EP memories. Longitudinal studies, e.g., Journal of Traumatic Stress, report 80% symptom reduction as dissociated shadows integrate. These foundations interlock somatically. Polyvagal sets safety, triune maps layers, dissociation names, fragments, practice synthesis, shadow pendulation. Sit comfortably. Scan body for dorsal cues. Numbness, fog. Name the shadow flavor. Heavy chest grief fragment. Pendulate. Shift gaze to safe visual anchor. Plant. Window. Breathe vaguely. Neocortex queries. What does this part protect? Listen limically. IFS dialogues. Thank you for alerting me. Repeat cycles build neural superhighways, myelinated ventral pathways, overriding ancient ruts. Consider real world calibration. Pre shadow work. A boundary violation triggers sympathetic snarl or dorsal collapse. Post rewiring, ventral discernment. I feel anger, I choose response. HRV metrics soar, relationships deepen, clients report. I used to ghost emotions, now they flow, integrated. Philosophically, this echoes Jung's transcendent function opposites persona, shadow, yielding synthesis. Neuroscience validates default mode network, quiets overactive DMN rumination, birthing presence. Your unconscious, once battlefield, becomes sanctuary, but embodiment trumps theory. Pause. Track your state. Dorsal fog, sympathetic buzz, ventral ease, shadow work. Rewires in real time. We've mapped the foundations polyvagal safety, triune harmony, dissociative mending. These aren't abstractions, they're your psyche's operating system. Now upgradable. Ahead, the emotional toll mounts, but armed with this, you're fortified. Yet one question lingers. Where does this unexpressed fear actually come from? Chapter 4, The Emotional Cost. Invisible grief and philosophical weight. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet erosion, like waves wearing stone to sand. The shadow's exile doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It whispers through the years, accumulating an invisible grief, a ode somatic mourning for the self you never allowed to breathe. This is the emotional toll of your ancient defense, a life bartered for safety, leaving behind a philosophical weight that questions the very meaning of existence. We'll trace this cost through the layers of suppressed vitality, relational hollowing, existential vertigo, and the soul's silent scream. It's heavier than you think, but naming it lightens the load. Start with the invisible grief, the primary wound. Every repressed impulse is a small death, that childhood rage, stuffed down to be good. It fossilizes into chronic tension, jaw clenches, shoulder knots, the body's ledger of unlived fury. Psychologically, this manifests as an hedonia, a muted joy palette. You achieve milestones, promotions, partnerships, yet the dopamine spike fizzles. Your reward circuits, hijacked by limbic suppression, can't register shadow sourced pleasure, the wild dance, the unfiltered laugh, the sensual abandon. Studies in affective neuroscience, e.g., Jack Ponkcep's seeking system, show repression dulls this primal drive, birthing a gray existence. You grieve not events, but potentials. The artist you sidelined, the lover you armored, the adventurer caged in routine. This grief compounds relationally. Intimacy demands shadow vulnerability. The needy child, the possessive beast. Exile them, and connections turn transactional. You attract mirrors, partners who embody your disowned traits, yet project blame. They're too emotional. The loneliness amid company. Attachment research. John Bowlby reveals this as internal working model distortion. Unintegrated shadow warps bonds into reenactments of early splits. You yearn for merger, but freeze at touch, offer logic but crave chaos. The grief here is acute, a heart level ache for witnessed wholeness, masked as independence. Clients whisper it in sessions. I love them, but I feel alone beside them. Your unconscious weeps for the embrace denied. Deeper still, the philosophical weight crushes. Repression isn't neutral, it's a metaphysical betrayal. Existentialists like Sartre nail it. Hell is other people, but truly, hell is the self as bad faith, living inauthentically, fleeing freedom. Your shadow exile enacts this. You perform the good life, evading the nausea of true choice. Nietzsche's last man haunts blinkered comfort over Übermensch striving. The weight, amor fati, undone, you resent fate, not for hardship, but for unlived glory. Viktor Frankl's logotherapy warns, meaning derives from confronting the void. Ignore your shadow, and the void confronts you midlife crises, burnout, the 3 a.m. terror. Is this symbolically? This toll evokes the wounded king myth. Fisher King paralyzed by a groin wound, repressed sexuality power blighting his land. Your psyche mirrors, shadow neglect poisons the inner realm, creativity withers, purpose atrophies. Ecologically, it's desertification. Conscious ego farms the surface, starving subsurface aquifers of instinctual flow. The grief is collective too, unintegrated. Shadows fuel societal shadows, wars from projected aggression, consumerism masking emptiness. Summatize the cost. Notice your body as we speak. Solar plexus flutter, that's suppressed power grieving, throat constriction, silenced truth. Polyvagal dorsal states amplify this numbness masquerading as peace, but laced with subtle despair. Hormonally elevated cortisol from chronic vigilance erodes telomeres, aging you prematurely. Emotionally, it's alexithymia. I feel nothing veils oceanic sorrow, yet the cruelest cost is fragmented identity. Jung's individuation stalls at persona, the self. The archetypal wholeness retreats. You become a partial person, echoing Heidegger's thrownness without authentic projection. Daily rituals ossify. Coffee becomes armor. Work evasion, even joys hollow. Sex mechanical, art intellectualized. The philosophical punch. Kama's absurd hero rebels. You accommodate trading Sisyphus's defiance for Sisyphean drudgery. Witness the ripple effects. Career plateaus from risk aversion. Friendships fade from unavailable depth. Self-worth teeters on external props. The grief accumulates as soul loss, shamanic term for dissociated essence. Retrieval demands shadow reckoning, else the weight bows you double. But here's the resonant truth. This cost isn't punishment, it's tuition. The invisible grief schools you in longing, the philosophical weight forges wisdom. Repressed, it festers as depression. DSM's persistent depressive disorder, rooted in limbic stagnation. Integrated, it fuels renaissance. Feel the gravity now. That subtle heaviness in your limbs, the shadow's accumulated mass. Honor it, not with more suppression, but tender witness. I see your grief, breathe to it. Ventral vagal tones soften the load. Tears may rise, alchemizing salt to gold. Philosophically, this echoes the alchemical solvent coagulate dissolve the exile's pain. Recoagulate is integrated self. Eastern parallels. Advaita Vedanta's neti neti. Not this, not that. Strips persona to reveal Atman, shadowed wholeness. We've shouldered the toll. Grief's quiet tide waits existential crush. It's the price of half living, but awareness flips the ledger, cost to cattle. Yet one question lingers amid the ache. Where does this unexpressed fear actually come from? Chapter 5. The core fear and daily life complication. Fear of annihilation. Fear of annihilation. It echoes like a primal drumbeat through your veins, the root terror birthing the shadow's exile. Not fear of death. Exactly, but of becoming the dissolution of your armored self into the raw, uncontainable chaos beneath. This core fear, etched in childhood's crucible, whispers that to embrace the shadow is to unravel, to be swallowed by the very instincts you've deemed monstrous. It's the terror of engulfment by your own depths, the wildness that could shatter social belonging, the vulnerability that invites rejection, the power that demands reckoning. You've built your life around evading it, but it complicates every breath, every glance, every mundane moment. Shadow work names it to disarm it. This fear isn't intellectual, it's visceral, autonomic, pedagogical, neuroception flags. Shadow emergence is mortal threat. Heart races, breath shallows, dorsal shutdown looms. Freud termed it annihilation, anxiety, the psyche's dread of eruption, overwhelming ego boundaries. Jung saw it as the shadow's compensatory menace, over repress, and it possesses approach, and ego quakes. Evolutionarily, it's adaptive. Our ancestors survived by exiling dangerous impulses in tribal conformity. But in modern life, it turns ally to adversary, complicating simplicity into suffering. Watch it unfold in daily rituals. Those innocent anchors turned minefields. Morning coffee. You sip, scrolling news, but a headline stirs unease. A story of bold risk, unmasked emotion. The core fear flares. If I pursued that passion, I'd fail spectacularly. Be seen as foolish, so you choose the safe scroll, suppressing the inner artist's plea. The moment sours, caffeine turns bitter, day launches in subtle dread. Your unconscious registers the denial, cortisol ticks up, setting sympathetic tone. Commute or workday start. Traffic snarls, a driver cuts you off. Rage surges, your shadow beast snarls. But annihilation fear clamps it. Explode and you're the angry one, unemployable, unloved. You swallow it, white knuckling the wheel. Jaw locks, shoulders hike. By desk, you're dissociated, productive on surface, but vitality leaks. Emails pile, creativity stalls. The fear complicates focus into fragmentation. Half present, scanning for judgment. Lunch with colleagues, banter flows. Someone shares a vulnerable story. Your turn, deflect with wit, analysis. Core fear pulses, admit doubt, and they see weakness. Connection crumbles, loneliness blooms. Amid laughter, you eat mechanically, appetite dulled, limbic suppression starves, seeking circuits. Back to work, resentment simmers. Why can't I connect? The fear turns nourishment to isolation. Afternoon slump. Energy dips, rest beckons. But fear intervenes. Pause, and the void rushes in. Needs shadows, unproductivity's shame. You power through. Caffeinate. Grind. Adrenals fatigue. By 3 p.m., fog descends. Decisions warp. Procrastination masks as busyness. The complication stasis disguised as momentum, exhaustion as discipline, evening unwind. Partner asks, "How was your day?" Surface recap, no depths. Fear grips, share the rage, the longing, and intimacy implodes. They'll leave. Conversation flattens, screens, summon, sex, mechanical or avoided, sensual shadow exiled, lest it overwhelm, bed calls but insomnia brews, rumination replays unspoken truths, sleep evades, dreams ferment, shadows even solitude betrays, alone, Netflix cues but boredom gnaws, core fear, sit with self, and the beast wakes, grief floods, desires roar. You distract podcasts, chores. The complication, solitude meant for recharge, becomes confrontation dodged. These aren't anomalies, they're the fear's daily tax. Psychologically, it's attachment terror. Early caregivers modeled conditional love, be perfect or abandonment. Schema therapy, Jeffrey Young calls it defectiveness, shame schema. Shadow traits, unworthiness. Daily, it manifests as hypervigilance, amygdala pinging unsafe at authenticity cues. Neuroscience shows prefrontal overload burns glucose, chronicity births, decision fatigue, depression's precursor. Relationally, it sabotages micro moments. A friend's text, miss you, reply, delayed casual. Fear, too eager and needy. Shadow repels, bonds wither. Career wise, meetings mute your ideas. Speak bold truth, rejection dooms. Promotions elude, potential idols. Emotionally, the complication cascades. Allocythemia thickens, feelings blur into fine. Joy mutes, peaks flatten. Existentially, Camus' absurd repeats. Push the boulder. Fear halts the gaze upward, yet naming pierces the veil. Witness one complication now. As you read, notice body cues, tightness. That's fear somaticizing. Label it annihilation guardian. Curiosity disarms. What if embrace strengthens? This core fear isn't foe, it's fossilized protector, born from real wounds, shamed tantrums, ridiculed dreams. Shadow work reparents it. You're safe now, emerge. We've illuminated the fear's daily sabotage, from coffee to dreams, simplicity to strife. Awareness cracks its grip. We will now dive into the 6 hidden symptoms you experience every day. Chapter 6, Adult Manifestation, Relational Projection. They become adults who intellectualize love into ledgers, who crave merger yet build moats of reason. Childhood shadow exile, that frozen child self, shamed for needs and fury, doesn't vanish. It evolves, puppeteering adult relationships through projection, the shadow's masterstroke. You've split the psyche conscious persona, the stable partner, exiles the raw underbelly, needy, possessive, ecstatic. These fragments then seek hosts. Partners become screens for your disowned traits. This isn't coincidence, it's unconscious curriculum. Welcome to Relational Projection, the adult manifestation, where childhood patterns replay in romantic loops, complicating bonds into battlegrounds of the unlived self. Picture the mechanism. Jung described projection as the extrusion of subjective psychic contents into objects. Your shadow, dense with repressed vitality, leaks onto others, the controlling spouse, your own exiled authority, the needy lover, your orphaned longing. This stems from early attachment, inconsistent parenting, wired, implicit relational knowing. Love feels unsafe when authentic. By adulthood, you've mastered the persona, attentive, logical, low drama, but intimacy triggers core fear. Shadow surges, projecting outward. Neuroception flags partner as threat mirror. Amygdala floods. Rationalizations follow. They're the problem. First pattern, emotional outsourcing. You pride yourself on independence, exiling dependency. Enter the partner who clings your projected inner child. You resent their neediness, enforcing distance, reenacting parental withdrawal. Cycle. They pursue, you withdraw. Avoidant blueprint. Shadow hunger starves. Intimacy plateaus. Sex cools to duty. Unseen toll. Chronic loneliness. Masked as self sufficiency. Clients confess, I end up with high maintenance types, then bail. Now I see it's my unmet needs screaming. Second, polarized polarity. Persona nice guy girl projects shadow aggression onto partner. Their irritability becomes abuse. Your simmer stays subterranean. Arguments erupt asymmetrically. You calm, they rage. Truth, mutual projection. Your beast awakens attachment research. Sue Johnson, EFT, reveals this protest behavior dorsal shutdown provokes pursuit. Result, emotional gridlock, divorce courts filled with irreconcilable shadows. Third, idealization, devaluation, roller coaster, honeymoon projects, shadow ecstasy, onto them, soulmate, disowning your own joy capacity. Cracks appear, devaluation kicks in. They're flawed. Narcissistic wounding amplifies your fragile self worth, demands perfection. Psychoanalytically, it's splitting. Klein, all good, all bad object relations from childhood idealization, shaming, adult fallout, serial monogamy, ghosting at vulnerability's edge. Symbolically, relationships become alchemical retorts. Partner as prima materia, your shadow gold, locked in leaden form. The fairy tale union, animus demands shadow integration, evade, and Rapunzel's tower persists. Locked beauty, potential awaits the climb. Daily, this manifests in micro traumas. Date night, partner shares fears. You analyze. Have you tried therapy? Projection. Their vulnerability spotlights your exile. Silence follows. Resentment brews. Bedtime. Cuddle invite triggers engulfment fear. Your possessive shadow projects as smothering. You roll away blaming sheets. Birthdays, gifts intellectualized, no poetry, sensual shadow outsourced to Hallmark. Deeper, sexuality electrifies the projection. Libido, Jung's Eros bridge to unconscious, awakens shadow, yet fear clamps. Primal urges threaten persona. You attract wild partners, judge their excess, repress your own, tantric stagnation, orgasms mechanical, postcoital emptiness, polyvagal lens, sympathetic arousal without ventral safety, orgasm then dorsal crash, parental mirroring compounds. You project onto kids. Over emotional child gets your logic lectures, reenacting your suppression. Cycle perpetuates. Shadow passed down, quantify the cost. Longitudinal studies, Gottman Institute predict divorce from four horsemen: criticism, projected flaws, contempt, shadow scorn, defensiveness, persona armor, stonewalling, dorsal freeze.
69% accuracy.
Your projections fuel healing glimpses emerge in awareness. Notice projection mid moment. Partner snaps. Pause. Ask, is this my shadow speaking? Track body. Chest tight. Exile alert. Dialogue inwardly. What part of me needs this? Partners transform from enemies to allies. Philosophically, this echoes Hegel's master slave dialectic: mutual recognition demands, shadow surrender. Buber's I thou, authentic relation dissolves projections I. You've witnessed the evolution, childhood splits, birthing adult projections, outsourcing, polarization, idealizations trap, relationships meant for wholeness become shadow theaters. We will now dive into the 6 hidden symptoms you experience every day. Chapter 7: Adult Manifestation, Career and Internal Identity. You might wake up dreading Monday, yet grind through decades of stability. You might excel on paper, promotions, accolades, while an inner voice whispers imposter. They become adults who chase titles to silence the void, who sideline soul fire for spreadsheets. The shadow's relational projections extend into career and self, manifesting as 6 hidden symptoms that erode your days. These aren't quirks, they're the exiled self sabotage, complicating ambition into alienation. We'll dissect them across relationships, already glimpsed, career, self worth, boundaries, emotional regulation, and internal identity, each a thread in the paradox of outward success, inward fraction. Symptom 1: Career hypervigilance, the invisible grind. You overperform, scanning for flaws like a predator. Shadow aggression, exiled as unprofessional, fuels this: micromanaging projects, 80-hour weeks, a meeting idea, buried lest it flop. Result: burnout masquerading as dedication. Neuroscience pins it. Amygdala hijacks prefrontal planning, birthing decision paralysis. Daily, emails at 10 p.m. Just one more task. Toll, adrenal exhaustion, creativity starved. You climb ladders to nowhere, the wild innovator caged. Symptom 2: Self worth volatility, validation dependency. Worth ties to output. Praise spikes dopamine, criticism craters it. Repressed vulnerability means no internal anchor, shadow neediness projects onto bosses, metrics. Miss a deadline, existential freefall. I'm nothing, therapy, insight. Core schema of unlovability. Daily refresh inbox for affirmation. Scroll LinkedIn, envying peers. Relationships bleed in. Partners become audience. Cost: chronic anxiety. 3 a.m. worthlessness spirals. Wholeness eludes. You're a human doing, not being. Symptom 3: Boundary permeability, the yes trap. You say yes to everything. Over time, favors fearing no invites rejection. Exiled assertiveness simmers. Shadow power deemed selfish leaks as resentment. Polyvagal sympathetic overdrive without ventral no. Daily, colleague dumps work. You absorb, seething silently. Career stall. No boundaries, no leadership. Relational echo. Friends drained, intimacy invaded. Consequence: resentful martyrdom. Autoimmune flares from suppressed fury. The beast paces, unchained only in passive aggression. Symptom 4: Emotional dysregulation, outbursts, volcanic leaks. Surface calm shatters unpredictably, snapping at a junior, tears in solitude. Dorsal freeze builds pressure. Limbic, shadow erupts sans neocortical filter. Trigger, minor slight echoing childhood shame. Daily, road rage post meeting. Fine facade cracks at home. Career, reputation as moody. Self, gaslighting. I'm not emotional. Toll, isolation. Trust erosion. Integration hint. Name the surge. Shadow anger rising. Halts the flow. Symptom 5. Relational echoes in professional spheres. Projection networks. Colleagues become shadow screens. Lazy teammate, your rest need. Cutthroat rival, your ambition. From Chapter 6, this scales networking feels predatory. Alliances shallow. Attachment, avoidant bonds mimic family chill. Daily, team lunches deflect to small talk. Depth terrifies. Cost, stunted collaborations. Solo climbs to plateaus. Internal identity fractures. Am I team player or lone wolf? Wholeness demands owning both. Symptom 6. Internal identity fragmentation, the hollow core. Deepest cut. You don't know who you are beyond roles. Employee, achiever, fixer. Shadow holds the unlived. Mystic, rebel, sensualist. Jung's persona, inflation dominates. Self starves. Daily, mirror gaze yields blankness. Hobbies abandoned as unproductive. Career, passion projects die in drawers. Philosophical vertigo, who am I without the mask? Existential cost, depersonalization, midlife unmooring. Body signals, chronic fatigue, somatic numbness, dorsal ex. These symptoms interweave daily. Morning, hypervigilance launches the grind. Midday, boundary breach spikes resentment 3, emotional leak simmers 4. Evening, self-worth crashes sans validation. Projections blame others. 5 identity voids echo quantified. Gallup polls 85% to disengaged workers. Shadow symptoms en masse. fMRI reveals repressors show reduced insula activation, blunting self-awareness. Symbolically, career becomes labyrinth. Minotaur, shadow power, guards the core. Identity, shattered mirror, facets reflecting partial selves. Nietzschean, slave morality over master symptoms, suppress will to power. Witness yours now, which resonates. Chestnut, 3, foggy purpose. 6, label without judgment, symptom guardian. Awareness thins the density. These 6 aren't condemnations, they're disowned potentials knocking. Career vigilance craves bold vision, worth volatility, inherent value. Heal them, frame as parts, not pathologies. IFS whispers, welcome home. You've mapped the manifestations, symptoms threading life into subtle suffering. Awareness is the torch. The first step is speaking to the body, regulating the nervous system. Chapter 8, Awareness and Unlearning. Silencing the inner critic. These aren't personality traits carved in stone, they're coping mechanisms, adaptive scripts from a nervous system schooled in survival. The vigilant grind, a child's armor against chaos, the emotional leaks, pent up rivers seeking channel. You've mistaken the shadow's symptoms for you, letting the inner critic, a relentless superego sentinel, gaslight the truth. You're broken, flawed, irredeemable. Shadow work flips this. Awareness as witnessing, not warfare. Will unlearn through somatic attunement, reframing the critic and compassionate inquiry, silencing its whipcrack verdict. This isn't self improvement, it's homecoming. Begin with the paradigm shift. Behaviors as mechanisms, not essence. Attachment theory frames it. Your avoidant intellect, anxious underbelly, strategies for inconsistent love, not innate defects. The inner critic, introjected parental voices, too sensitive, be strong. Freud's superego internalized these, policing the ed, shadow. Jung warned, unconscious identification with persona births, inflation, true self witnesses all. Modern IFS Schwartz personifies critic as protector part, shielding from shame vulnerability. Witness it. Thank you for guarding me. What do you fear? Gaslighting dissolves. I'm not bad. I'm protected. Awareness demands unlearning's first law. Somatic witnessing. The body holds the score. Van der Kolk. Intellect bypasses it. Practice. Body scan. Lie still. Scan from toes to crown. Noticing, not fixing. Tension arises. Gut churn. Label symptom 3 guardian. Boundary fear. No story, just sensation. Polyvagal shift. Ventral tone emerges as you track without aversion. Studies, Journal of Psychosomatic Research show interoceptive awareness reduces amygdala reactivity 40%. Thinning critic volume. Daily morning mirror. Meet eyes whisper. I witness you whole. The critic quiets. Presence amplifies. Reframe the critic surgically. It's not enemy. It's exiled loyalty. Voice dialogue. Asagioli psychosynthesis. Sit with paper. Column 1. Critics tirade. Lazy failure. Column 2. Underlying fear. Abandonment if you rest. Column 3. Vulnerable truth. I need rest to thrive. Column 4. Compassionate response. You're safe to pause. Repeat aloud. Neuroplasticity kicks in. Prefrontal rewires. Superego softens to ally. Client's report. The voice went from prosecutor to concerned parent. Philosophical anchor. Rumi's the wound is the place where the light enters. Critics' barbs wound to reveal light. Compassionate inquiry unmasks gaslighting. Byron Katie's The Work. Questioned thoughts. I'm unlovable without achievement. Symptom 2. Is it true? Can you know? Who are you without it? Turn around. I'm lovable with achievement. Evidence floods childhood hugs unbound by output. This severs self gaslighting's root. Beliefs as defenses, not facts. Pair with self compassion breaks. Kristen Neff, hand on heart. May I be kind to myself in suffering. fMRI activates self referential networks, countering critics' DMN rumination. Daily ritual. Evening review. 3 witnessed moments. No judgment. Deeper unlearning. Active imagination. Jung. Close eyes. Invite shadow figure, beast, child. Dialogue. What do you need? Listen without censor. Artist emerges. Paint. Fury. Roar into pillow. This bypasses critics' veto, integrating somatically. Dreams amplify. Record symbols pre coffee. Witness, don't interpret aggressively. The critic thrives on fusion, believing its narrative. Witnessing unblends. You're the sky, thoughts, clouds, non dual glimpse. Toli's presence, power, practice, noticing, noticing. Meta awareness starves, identification, pitfalls, resistance, dorsal numbness, sympathetic deflection, counter, titrate. 5 minutes daily builds ventral tolerance, Track and journal, Critic Volume 810 to 410. Momentum snowballs. Symbolically, this is Orpheus's lyre, soothing underworld beasts, not slaying. The critic, Cerberus, three-headed shame, fear, guilt. Feed it awareness, its sleep. Feel it now. Inner chatter rising, witness, protector speaking, softens instantly. Existentially, unlearning liberates Heidegger's Dasein, authentic being in world. Nietzsche, become who you are. Witness strips false overlays. You've begun. Behaviors recast as allies. Critic as misguided friend. Awareness witnesses. Unlearning integrates. The inner storm quiet. The first step is speaking to the body, regulating the nervous system. Chapter 9, The Beginning of Healing. Actionable paths. Imagine waking to a softer dawn where the inner critic's echo fades into birdsong and your body hums with quiet permission. This isn't fantasy, it's the felt reality of shadow integration, the warm exhale after years of holding breath. You've journeyed through the paradox, the archetype's crypt, the nervous system's scars, the grief's weight, the fear's daily siege, and the symptom's subtle theft. Now, healing beckons, not as conquest, but as reparenting, tender, grounded, fiercely honest. We'll walk three actionable paths: inner child reparenting, shadow work practices, and nervous system regulation, each a bridge from exile to embodiment. These aren't steps, they're spirals, somatic invitations to wholeness. Start small. The unconscious rewards. Persist. Path 1, inner child reparenting, the exile's homecoming. Your shadow cradles the wounded child self, frozen in dorsal freeze, the shamed tantrum, the unseen tears, the too much vitality. Reparenting reclaims this orphan, not with platitudes, but presence. Core practice. Daily dialogue, morning 10 minutes. Sit with photo of yourself at 5, or visualize, eyes soft, hand on heart. Little one, I see you. You were never too angry, too needy. Mommy, daddy couldn't hold you then. I hold you now. Feel the somatic shift. Chest warms, ventral vagus awakens. Name needs. You craved play. Today, we dance wildly. Evidence from schema therapy, young reparenting rewires, defectiveness schemas, boosting self compassion 60% and extend to play repair. Shadow children starved of joy. Weekly, finger paints, mud walks, silly songs, no adult overlay. Resistance arises. Witness, protector fears mess. Permit it. Nightly letter, dear inner child, today I protected your boundaries by saying no. I love your wild life. This dissolves annihilation fear. Child feels seen. Shadow softens. Clients transform. I sobbed the first time, then freedom. My adult rage became playful fire. Philosophically, this echoes Winnicott's good enough mother. You become her, mirroring the attuned, holding your nervous system craves. Integration blooms. Reparented child fuels adult authenticity. Path 2, shadow work, the deliberate descent. Jung's active method refined for daily life. No therapist needed. Your psyche guides weekly ritual. Shadow altar. Dim light, candle journal. Invoke beloved shadow, what seeks light. Free write stream of consciousness, no censor. I hate my boss's weakness. Probe, whose weakness? Yours, exiled softness. Dialogue. Personify. Dear rage, teach me. Listen, I protect your power. Draw it, beast, serpent, storm. Burn judgments. Keep essence. Dream work amplifies bedside journal. Morning decode pursuer. Unowned pursuit. Monstrous self. Disowned strength. Amplify via art. Sculpt the figure. Converse advanced. Mirror work. Face reflection. Show me my shadow. Gaze past persona. Traits surface, ugly cry, wild eyes. Affirm. I embrace you. Polyvagal synergy. Co regulate with safe other or pet first. Confront projections love. Partner irritates. Pause. My shadow? Own it. I see my laziness in you. Mine to claim. Boom. Intimacy surges. Toll, initial nausea, ego dissolution, titrate 15 minutes max. Longitudinal, Jungian analyst reports 70% complex reduction after 6 months. This path alchemizes lead, shadow gold emerges as creativity, charisma. Path 3, nervous system regulation, the body's vote. Awareness awakens. Regulation embodies polyvagal toolkit. Build ventral vagal tone. Discharge sympathetic backlog. Titrate dorsal numbness. Anchor practice 478 breath x5. Thrice inhale safety 4. Hold integration 7. Exhale release 8. HRV soars, critic quiet, discharge, 3A trauma release exercises, 7 poses trembling out freeze, 20 minutes weekly shake limbs, roar softly, somatic experiencing pendulation, overwhelm edge, anchor safe sensation, feet on floor, return, container visualization, shadow floods. Imagine gold chalice holding it, no spill, just capacity. Co regulation. Shadow thrives. Solo, heal in dyad. Weekly call. Trusted friend. Witness my shadow share. Eye contact. Nod mirrors ventral safety. Nature immersion. Forest bathing downregulates cortisol 15%. Japanese studies shadow whispers clearer amid trees. Track weekly body log. Dorsal hours down 2. Sympathetic flares owned. Apps like Insight Timer Guide. Science. Porges Safe and Sound Protocol. SSP. 20 hours. Music rewires Vegas, slashing anxiety. Integrate paths daily. Morning reparent, midday breath, evening shadow journal. Synergy. Child feels safe. Path 1. Descends willingly 2. Body holds 3. Resistance. Part scared. Reparent it. Honest caveat. Backslide sting. Fear flares. Symptoms sneak. Normal, spiral up. One breath restarts. Hope's tone. You've survived exile, thriving away. Symbolically, these paths forge the philosopher's stone. Reparenting heals the king. Shadow work dissolves prima materia. Regulation tempers the vessel. Feel the pull now. Which path calls? Inner child peaks? Beast stirs? Body softens? Begin tonight. Healing isn't arrival, it's living the descent. The goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. Chapter 10, Conclusion and Affirmation. Wholeness and the final quote. You've arrived at the threshold, breath steadying after the spiral descent. The fortress walls, once impenetrable, now bear cracks of light, golden fissures where shadow and self converge. This hour-long odyssey through the unconscious wasn't a map to slay dragons or polish ego. It was a reclamation from the core paradox of exiled authenticity through the archetype's crypt and nervous system scars, the invisible grief daily fears, relational projections, sixfold symptoms, witnessing unlearning, to healing's tender paths. You felt the resonance, the chest ache softening, the subtle nod of recognition. This is shadow work's promise fulfilled, not erasure of darkness, but its embrace as the very soil of your becoming. Recall the emotional spine that bound us, the hidden exile of the repressed self, the silent sacrifice of authenticity for illusory safety, echoing with unlived potential and fragmented wholeness. Every layer peeled revealed it. The child frozen in dorsal shutdown, the beast pacing relational moats, the innovator stifled in career vigilance. You recognize the cost and hedonic craze, projection fueled gridlocks, identity's hollow core. Yet awareness flipped the script, behaviors as allies, critic as guardian, symptoms as signals. The paths we walked, reparenting the orphan, dialoguing the beast, vagal breaking the storm, aren't endpoints. They're lifelines, somatic rhythms to weave daily. Now, affirm the truth your body already knows. You are not broken machinery needing repair. You are the ancient psyche, vast as ocean trenches, holding all opposites in dynamic tension. The shadow isn't other, it's the unlived half of your light, rage tempering compassion, neediness fueling boundaries, chaos birthing order. Integration isn't perfection, it's permeability, the ego yielding to self, persona dancing with underworld kin. Jung captured this transcendent function, conscious and unconscious, yielding the third greater whole. You've glimpsed it in those softened breaths, the sudden urge to roar or weep let this profound quote from Marion Woodman, Jungian analyst and bridge to the somatic soul, seal the journey. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. Pause. Feel its weight, your shadow exile, an unlived life handed down, now interrupted by your courage. Woodman urges, live it now, not for children alone, but for the fractured wholeness echoing through your lineage. This isn't guilt, it's gravitational pull toward ancestral repair. Your integration ripples outward, deeper loves, bolder careers, boundaries that bless. Philosophically, wholeness echoes the alchemical opus. Solve the prima materia, shadow dissolution, coagula into lapis philosophorum, integrated self. Eastern wisdom aligns, Zen koan dissolves dualities, Tao's yin yang spins eternal. Nietzsche whispers, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. You've danced with chaos, stars await. Existentially, Camus' Sisyphus smiles not in denial, but defiance, embracing the absurd rock as his practically carry this forward. Dawn ritual, mirror gaze, I am whole, shadows included. Midday trigger, breath, witness, own, my projection. Evening altar, thank one integrated peace. Today, I felt my anger and chose wisely. Track synchronicities, dream beasts taming, relationships magnetizing depth. Community calls share vulnerably, co regulate in circles. Books deepen, Jung's Aeon, van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, Porges polyvagal safety, app scaffold, insight timer for guided shadow sits, HRV trackers for ventral proof. The pitfalls? Ego resurgence. I fixed it. Spiral back. Witness without attachment. Backslides? Reparent the part that shames. Science affirms longevity. Neuroplasticity peaks with repetition. Ventral tone builds resilience against relapse. 1 year in, clients report relationships breathe, work ignites. I am home. Symbolically envision the cathedral complete nave, encrypt unified, stained glass filtering shadow rainbows. The Fisher King's wound heals, land blooms. You rise not armored, but radiant, vulnerable power, instinctual lace. Emotionally, this closes the loop. That midnight ache from chapter 1, now a homing beacon, the fear of annihilation transmuted to awe of expanse. You've traded half life for full spectrum, grief alchemized to gratitude, symptoms to superpowers. Beloved traveler, the unconscious bows. You began in paradox, you end in possibility. Share this if it stirred your depths. Tag a friend in relational exile. Comment your core resonance. Subscribe not for content, but companionship on the spiral. Your shadow integration, a gift to the collective unconscious, thinning humanity's shared density. The goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. Breathe it in, live it out. The journey spirals ever deeper. Namaste.